Coming up, the landlord of an Auckland swamp house is given 10 days to clean up or face a $200,000 fine. But first, the man who has been involved in that story is the Housing Minister Phil Twyford. We're covering as the Transport Minister. He says he's planning to spend big on road safety, injecting $4.3 billion of his transport fund into median barriers, better intersections and road policing. Now, that $4.3 billion is slightly more than the money Phil Twyford will give to public transport, rapid transit and rail. He's also spending another $390 million on walkways and cycleways. He announced today that most of the $16.9 billion investment over the next 3 years will go to the regions rather than the big cities. He's also reducing state highway funding by almost a fifth to fund these road safety projects and regional improvements. Now, we know the bulk of that funding comes from fuel excises, such as the Auckland Regional Fuel Tax. So I went along to the Auckland Transport Operations Centre to ask Phil Twyford how soon those taxes will ease congestion. He began by saying road safety is his priority, and yesterday's crash between a train and a car at Mount Roskill is the sort of thing this investment is tackling.
Yeah, today we've announced the biggest spending on safety, transport safety ever, $4.3 billion. Over the next 3 years. And actually the safety of level crossings, rail crossings, is a critical issue. And in Auckland, as we increase the number of trains on the network and we build light rail, obviously we're going to have to think really carefully and invest to make people safe.
It's a lot of money on roads for the sort of things you're talking about, medium barriers. What proof do you have, what evidence do you have that this sort of investment is going to work?
Look, it's common sense. We're investing billions of dollars in safety improvements right across the entire roading network. So passing lanes, median barriers, side barriers, rumble strips, upgraded intersections. These are the things that we know can save lives.
They're sort of the things that people take for granted when they're driving on roads, and there might be a perception out there that, well, they're just the small little things that you just take for granted, as I said. So how are you going to convince people that this is more important than piling money into state highways?
Well, I think, people understand that, we could pour tens of billions of dollars into dual carriage expressways, and we would make 20, 30, 40, 50 kilometres safe. But actually we want to make several thousand kilometres of roading network safe. And the best way to do that, the most efficient way to do that, is to invest in these kind of safety improvements right across the whole country.
The concern of a lot of people is what's your bang for buck here? Because a lot of the money, the bulk of the money, let's face it, is coming from the fuel excise. Already the fund is mainly propped up by that. You've got the Auckland Regional Fuel Tax on top of that. How can you convince Aucklanders that this investment in the short term will relieve congestion?
Well, I think for Aucklanders there is a real issue here, and what Aucklanders tell me is they want the government to get on and fix the congestion and the gridlock on the roads. They know it's going to cost extra money, and no one likes to shell out more than they have to, but we've got to get this city moving. We've inherited a terrible infrastructure deficit. The city's losing $1.3 billion every year in lost productivity because of the gridlock. This plan gets on and fixes it. So we're investing in hugely increased levels of public transport provision. We're starting to build a modern rapid transit network with our light rail project. We're investing in heavy rail. And these are the things that will get people out of their cars and into public transport. We're also putting $390 million into walking and cycling infrastructure, which again is another alternative that gives people choices.
We hear complaints all the time, and obviously one person tweeting about a bad morning on the full bus doesn't, and always giving the entire picture, but we had it the other day in Wellington as well. How soon can you assure people that if they're going to take this plunge of leaving their car at home, if they're just a single person driving to work, and investing in jumping on those buses in the big cities, how can you make them feel secure that this is really a worthwhile investment and they're going to be able to actually get on a bus?
So the bigger projects like the light rail project and like some of the highway projects that we're funding, they will take a little while to come through because you've got to build these things. But actually improving the frequency and the quality of public transport, that delivers the most immediate bang for buck. And we know that if you provide good quality, efficient and frequent services for people, like the Northern Busway, that now brings more people over the bridge every morning into Auckland's CBD than travel in a private car. It's been astoundingly successful. So if you give people good efficient, frequent services, they will use them.
A lot of this is about safety. You're investing a lot of money in making the roads safe. Interesting statistic, it's as much a cause of road deaths that people are being inattention, I think it was 18.4%, as alcohol and drugs. So is that people texting on their phone, or is it a lack of training? How are you attacking that as a cause of accidents on the roads?
So my colleague, the Honourable Julianne Genter, who's the Associate Transport Minister, she's leading a whole review of the safety strategy for the whole transport system. It includes impairment from drugs and alcohol. It includes what we can do to get people to focus on the road and not be texting. But it also improves the design and the engineering of our roading system, because what we've learned from Sweden and a number of other countries who have very successfully reduced the deaths and serious injuries on their roads is that good design makes a huge difference. We're all human, we make mistakes, and you have to design that into the system, allow for people to make mistakes, but actually design and build a system that reduces the deaths and serious injuries.
And it will never be fully foolproof. Are you concerned of last year's statistics that there's less policing on the roads, less alcohol breath testing, for instance, on the sides of roads? Are you, or have you been at work to increase a police presence on the roads?
Yeah, we've just put a substantial amount of new money into road policing, and we're undertaking a review of how we invest in road policing so we can get the best bang for buck.
Phil Twyford there, the Transport Minister.